Welcome back to the predictions and wishlist series for the Planet Zoo game. Today we cover our next group of terrarium reptiles, the lizards. With over 6,000 described species, lizards represent the largest and most diverse group of reptiles. In the interest of time and to lower complexity, we will instead be focusing on key families or genera of lizards instead of individual species, unless that particular individual species is worth mentioning on its own. As the Lesser Antillean iguana and recently the green iguana are the lizards confirmed so far in the Planet Zoo game, it makes sense to begin our list with the infraorder of the iguanomorphs, or iguanas and their close relatives. Both iguanas are themselves part of the Iguanidae family, which consists of true iguanas. Iguanas are distinct lizards, often much larger than other counterparts. They usually sport a broad body, an assortment of spines and dewlaps, and often painted in bright colours. Their biggest feature is their dental and facial adaptations that allow them to subsist as a pure herbivore. Iguanids are found almost exclusively in the tropical Americas and Caribbean, but have fanned out into remote islands in the Pacific such as the Galapagos and Fiji. Importantly, many iguanid species are threatened, presenting firm choices for a conservationally important terrarium roster. Besides the Lesser Antillean iguana and the green iguana, we covered the Galapagos marine iguana in our coastal islands and wetlands video, but obviously that animal cannot be considered a terrarium species. The Fiji banded iguana is a lucrative variety, an endangered specimen from the islands of Fiji and Tonga. The males display an ornate bright green and light blue patterning which makes them immensely popular for captive showcasing and represents itself as a likely consideration. The blue iguana is even more threatened and is noteworthy for benefiting from intense recovery efforts that have propelled them to be extensively showcased in zoos and reptile parks. These iguanas are from the Cayman Islands and have suffered from habitat loss, predation, and the effects of tourism. Rhinoceros iguana exist only on the island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean, where they are also endangered. These species are well established in zoos, especially large specimens are often accommodated in open air exhibits as the species can exceed 130 centimeters in length. The niche of this animal is somewhat covered by monitor lizards, so it's only a possibility. The Central American black iguana is another possible candidate, a popular captive iguana species which is also the fastest running species of any lizard, capable of reaching 35 kilometers an hour in a sprint. Some more unlikely specimens include the Galapagos land iguanas of the Conolophus genus, comprising 3 species on the various islands of the Galapagos. Unlike other completely herbivorous iguanas, land iguanas display occasional carnivorism due to lack of vegetation and circumvent the scarcity of fresh water by consuming cacti. An honorable mention to the chuckwallers, a genus of desert-dwelling iguanids from USA and Mexico with some captive representation, but they are otherwise a very unlikely consideration. The family of Carytophanidae are extremely identifiable and unique group of iguanomorph lizards, usually called the basilisks, casquehead or helmeted lizards. The males of this family display ornate crest and spines and are usually strikingly coloured. All species of this family reside in the Central American and Northwest Andean rainforest region. The plumed basilisk is perhaps the most famous and recognizable, shaded in a brilliant green, and it warrants an expected inclusion. This basilisk is known to be able to sprint across water using its hind legs and tail, earning the nickname the Jesus Christ lizard. The common basilisk, being slightly less colourful, is a probable alternative. It can equally run on the surface of water, but is also an adept swimmer. As it has many natural predators, these abilities allow it to evade predation. More unlikely specimens include the western basilisk, which pertains a hooded crest rather than the sailed crest of its relatives. The smooth helmeted iguana is from a more distinct genus of the basilisk, but still has a distinguishing crest on its head. Anoles are a family of smaller lizards known for their apparent dewlaps. Distributed over tropical regions of the New World, many species are coloured brightly and in display across many zoos and reptile parks, but they offer a much less attractive showcase compared to the other lizards. The Carolina anole, also known as the green anole or American anole, is the flagship species of this family. Males display a bright red dewlap, offering an attractive specimen for showcase. Males of the many-scaled anole also display a vibrant yellow dewlap. The night anole is the largest of these lizards and resembles a chameleon. The night anole is sometimes referred to as the Cuban giant anole for its large size and its native distribution in Cuba. Regardless, the anoles will represent only possible or unlikely specimens, as they are definitively the less interesting of the iguanians. The Agamidae family is considered a sister family to the closely related iguanas with similar appearances. They are, however, mostly insectivorous and inhabit generally dry, shrubland-style biomes. Widely distributed, they occur over most of the Old World and include some of the world's most famous lizards. The agamas themselves are a genus of sub-Saharan lizards that inhabit often rocky, open or cleared terrain. Male specimens are often very brightly coloured. Some of the appealing species in this genera include the common or rainbow agama, or the Mwanza flat-headed rock agama, sometimes appreciably dubbed the Spider-Man agama. It's likely at least one addition from this genus will be added. The frilled neck lizard is one of Australia's most iconic reptiles. A favourite in reptile parks, the folded frill on this animal is spread out when the animal is frightened or as a territorial or courtship display. The exotic nature represents a surely expected inclusion. Another surefire expectation from the Australian continent is the fawny devil. This prickly critter mounts an intimidating array of spikes on its body to dissuade predators. Funnily enough, these spikes are hard rather than sharp, meant to make the fawny devil a difficult prey to swallow rather than to attack. This species will represent a lucrative terrarium showcase for any park. The bearded dragons of Australia are so called for their scruffy necks which resemble beards. These arid desert dwelling lizards are some more notable varieties of Australian reptilia, often exhibited in captivity, and likely to be represented by at least one species. The flying dragons of Draco genus are known for their ability to glide using connective membrane between their fore and hind limbs. Flaps below their necks serve as a horizontal stabilizer. Common in Southeast Asian forests, the capability to glide allows flying dragons to perch hop between trees. Although it would be difficult to animate any gliding mechanics in a terrarium, the flying dragons pertain enough interest to be likely to be represented. Water dragons, as their name suggests, are considered semi-aquatic and reside around wetlands and waterways. Two species in the Chinese and Australian water dragon are interchangeable and offer a possible agamid specimen useful for terrariums with water tanks. Sailfin lizards from the Hydrosaurus genus also inhabit mangrove swamps and wetlands, where they utilize their paddle tails for propulsion. Interestingly, they can also sprint across water surfaces, similar to basilisks. For completeness sake, we should also include the forest dragons as a distant possibility, but they are too uninteresting to offer much competition to the other agamids. Probably one of the most anticipated group of lizards for the terrarium is the chameleon family, known and appreciated worldwide for their color changing ability, their independent turreted eyes, long and quick firing tongues, and their bright colors and ornate appearances. Chameleons mostly occur in Africa but extend as far east as India and Sri Lanka, and north across the Mediterranean into Europe. The archetypal Cameleo genus contains several well-known and highly showcased species. These include the common chameleon, which inhabits Europe and the Middle East, or the veiled chameleon, the most common chameleon in captivity and extremely distinguishable with its helmet. The veiled chameleon is one of the most hardy lizards as well, able to adapt to a range of environments and thus an expectation for inclusion. The Kaluma genus are known as the Madagascar chameleons, as they are all endemic to that island. Parsons chameleon is a prolific mainstay in captive exhibits and the pet trade, mainly due to its status as one of the largest chameleons in the world and featuring several color variants. This genera would be a secondary likely consideration. The horned chameleons of the Trioceros genus should also be considered likely alternatives. For example, the famous Jackson's free horned chameleon is highly showcased for its unique appearance. Finally, the Furcifer genus contains several more notable chameleon species, including the panther, noted for its striking coloration, and the Oostelets or Malagasy giant chameleon, the largest chameleon on Earth. Some miscellaneous iguanomorphs include the Baja blue rock lizard, a possible choice for a blue-tinted sandy terrarium lizard, or the desert horned lizard, which is sort of like an American fawny devil. The weapon-tail, or also known as the Brazilian spiny-tailed lizard, is a distant shout for its unique spiky tail. The Geckotown infraorder is our next group, but with over 1,000 species spread across worldwide, it makes little sense to go in depth with this group. Furthermore, not many species inside this classification are extensively showcased, mainly due to their small size and nocturnal behaviour. Most reptile exhibits prefer other lizard varieties instead. Known for their adhesive toe pads allowing them to traverse smooth and vertical surfaces, their lack of eyelids, or even their ability to regrow amputated tails. Some geckos are colourful and prove to be decent considerations for the terrarium. The genera of true geckos has some examples of these, such as the Tokai gecko. A better genus would be the day geckos, which contain some vibrantly coloured specimens such as the gold dust day gecko or the yellow-throated day gecko. Leopard geckos are numerous in the pet trade, which may propel a likely status. The crested gecko or eyelash gecko is one of the most widely kept and bred geckos due to their unusually long captive lifespans. The skinkomorphs are skinks and related lizards, but again with over 1,500 species, it represents an immensely large and cumbersome lizard group to go into detail with, so we'll select only the most noteworthy. Lizards in this group are stout and have a distinctive body plan and head shape. The Solomon Island skink is the largest species of skink and renowned for use of its prehensile tail for maneuvering among the trees, giving it other common names such as the prehensile-tailed skink or monkey-tailed skink. Blue-tongued skinks of the Tiliqua genus from Australia are relatively noteworthy and decently exhibited in arid sandy desert environment terrariums. The famous shingleback derives from this genus. A favourite among reptile keepers is the armadillo girdled lizard with its distinctive defensive posture of biting its tail and curling into a spiked ball. Other girdled lizards of the Smaug genus, named for their affectionate similarities with Tolkien's dragon in The Hobbit, can also be considered possible contenders. The Varanoid superfamily consists of very popular exhibit reptiles owing to their often large size and hyper-carnivorous nature. The largest lizards in the world, the monitors, form the archetypal family. The Komodo dragon has already been confirmed from this group, but its large size would render it an impossibility in a terrarium. Furthermore, we've covered the lace monitor, Nile monitor, and Parente in our biome speculation videos. The Asian water monitor is another large specimen that inhabits wetlands around South and Southeast Asia. Admittedly, its size does pose some constraints for a terrarium, although it is not impossible to be showcased in such a manner. As a notable varanid that has not been covered yet, it poses as the most likely monitor. The crocodile monitor is one of the world's most showcased monitor lizards in captivity, with a significant amount kept by reptile enthusiasts as pets as well. Their hardy and adaptable nature, as well as tame ability, makes them popular and relatively docile. Furthermore, they have extremely long tails, which in some instances may make them longer than Komodo dragons, although much less massive. A lot of current competition in this group should only provide a possible basis for the crocodile monitor. The blue-spotted tree monitor is arboreal, shy and reclusive, limiting research on the animal and resulting in very rare occurrences in captivity. However, it is unusually brightly coloured compared to other monitors, and its endangered status may warrant a possibility. Likewise, the emerald tree monitor's green flare makes it highly prized in the pet trade and for captive showcasing. Compared to the blue-spotted, it appears much more readily in zoos. Dumeril's monitor is famed for juvenile specimens displaying bright red and yellow coloration, which makes way for patterned olive brown in adults. This monitor has reasonable occurrences in captivity as a smaller terrarium reptile. Gray's monitor is rather unsuccessful in captivity due to issues with stress and reproduction, but it is currently one of the most threatened monitor lizards in the world. Although classified as vulnerable, this assessment is grossly outdated and the animal could be on the brink of extinction in the wild. Some unlikely mentions include the stoutly built savanna monitor and the slender spiny-tailed monitor. The other group from this superfamily are the beaded lizards, named for the texture of their scales. Beaded lizards are important due to the fact they are highly venomous. Although some other lizard groups, such as the monitors, are also considered venomous, the potency of beaded lizard venom can be considered medically significant against humans. The two species of this family reside in southern North America and Central America. The Gila monster is a favourite amongst reptile enthusiasts due to its cultural significance, perceived dangerousness and toxicity. Although potently venomous, its sluggish nature poses little threat to careful interaction, and in some instances the Gear monster can be tamed to a placid state. Gear monsters are one of the most widely represented lizard species in captivity and attracts relatively high popularity, which would mean one of the few expected inclusions on our list. The other species is the Mexican beaded lizard, consisting of 4 subspecies dispersed throughout southern Mexico and the surrounding countries. They are generally larger than the Gear monster, but duller in appearance. Their venom is believed to be at a similar level. Due to less protection and superstitious myths among its distribution, the Mexican beaded lizard is often rarer, and thus recent conservation efforts have put more specimens in zoos, but it will still be overshadowed by the Gear monster regardless. The last consideration for today's video is not technically a lizard, although they are very lizard-like in almost every regard. The tuataras are distinct reptiles, part of an ancient lineage of rhynchocephalians that evolved during the Triassic and lived amongst the dinosaurs. For this reason, the tuataras are sometimes referred to as living fossils, sole survivors of this distant and long extinct lineage. Thus, tuataras are important in the study of evolution of the apsids, as they retain basal features from around the time of the lineage's split with the rest of the lizards and snakes around 220 million years ago. Tuataras are currently confined to 32 islands offshore of New Zealand's main 2 islands. They are also extremely rare in captivity, especially outside New Zealand, although conservation efforts have accelerated in recent years, resulting in more exposure. San Diego Zoo is a major proponent of the tuatara program. Its standing as a special reptile should suggest a likely addition for the Planet Zoo game. That concludes our Terrarium Lizards video. The last remaining group of terrarium reptiles covered will be turtles and tortoises. Be sure to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video today, and stay tuned for that upcoming entry into our predictions and wishlist series.